So we're here with the second episode of the Celtic Lockdown Podcast, and we're joined by Tony Sullivan. So I'd just like to welcome Tony to the podcast. I know this is one people are a lot looking forward to.
No pressure then.
So I'll start off. I know you'll have spoke a lot about your career at Stalybridge to many fans while you were there, and since you retired. Just tell us a bit about how it came about that you joined Stalybridge, and then what it was like to be at the club.
Well, before I start, I'd just like to, I'd like to dedicate this podcast to one of the Stalybridge Celtic fans who's no longer with us, Cowboy, and his wife Claire. I've reached out to Claire the past couple of weeks, so I'd just like to give him a mention because a lot of the reason why I did so well at Stalybridge was because of people like him and people like yourself and other fans who were still with us and those who aren't with us. So I hope you don't mind me just putting that out there early, because I think the fans played a massive part in my career at the club, and I think if it wasn't for the fans, I don't think I would have been the person that I am today, or if it wasn't for the club, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. So Stalybridge, I owe Stalybridge Celtic a lot. So I just want to put that out there to everybody. So back to your initial question. So I was just a young lad just playing football on a Sunday with his mates for the mainstay, and I had a bit of a I was getting a bit of a reputation in Liverpool in terms of like scoring goals and stuff, and I was pretty quick back in those days. For those that remember, I was quick on the pitch, and I was also very quick off the pitch as well. But I remember there was this guy who used to come to the games every Sunday, and I'd see him in a big long coat, and he looked like Bungalow Rainbow, just a big man with big red hair, and I used to see him in the corner all the time, and he'd just be there. And when we'd finish the game, you're getting the stuff in and stuff, he'd like hello, and you'd like all right, and nobody really knew who he was. And then one day, we'd had a game, and I remember walking off the pitch, and he just somebody had said, a friend of mine, well, two friends of mine, Brian Sinnott and Mark Murphy, had said that there was somebody coming to watch me. And that they'd been watching a couple of times, and obviously there'd been a couple of back then. If a non-league club came in for you, or a non-league team, whether it be a local team or whatever, rumour got around. So he pulled me to one side, Brian Kettle, and he just said, "I want you to come down and have a go at Stalybridge Celtic. Do you know who Stalybridge Celtic is?" Now, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't have a clue. I thought it was a wind-up. I literally thought this fella is taking the piss. I just was just like, no, there's no way. So back then, I don't even think if I had a mobile phone. And I remember the next day I was with my friends outside my mum's house, and as we saw this car coming up the road, and where we live, who's in all the cars, whose cars they were back then. So a couple of us were like, "Who's this?" And I remember one of the lads saying, "It's the police. It's an unmarked car." And we were like, "What are you doing coming here?" Do you know what I mean? We're not doing nothing wrong at that time. And as the car pulled up, my mates all just sort of looked, and it had I think it's Lockwood and Greenwood on the side door, and it said Stalybridge Celtic. So I went to me mates, "This is this fella from this footy team," and they were like, "A footy team?" And they gave me a car, and I was like, yes, serious. So he had the conversation with me, and I remember that night I was playing for Prescott in a game And he said, go and play your game tonight and I'll speak to you tomorrow. But, you know, obviously, I'm serious about wanting you to come and sign. So I went to Prescott, to the game for Prescott. I can't remember who we were playing. And bearing in mind, you know, Prescott was my Saturday team and he'd been watching me on the Sundays. And back then, you know, you played for both. The Sundays was to play football with your friends, and the Saturdays, you know, you got a little bit of beer money or whatever. And so I went to the game in the night, and I remember after the game, the chairman and the manager were very, very, like, very sort of sheepish, not sheepish, but like wanted to speak to me on their own kind of thing, trying to get me away from the group. And I was a little bit like, what's this all about? No, I didn't know how this situation worked at the time. And I remember the manager saying that he wanted me to sign a contract. And I was like, a contract? For what? I'll play for you, and I don't know. I don't know why you would want me to sign a contract. And bear in mind, if I'm being honest with you, I didn't really pay much attention to what Brian had said to me during the day. I was still like laughing because I was thinking, who's this fella coming to my mum's house in a car with Stalybridge Celtic on the side? And then I remember the penny sort of dropped, and I was like, well, hang on a minute. There's interest from another club. Now, I didn't understand how the situation worked back then, and I probably even to this day, I still probably don't understand how it works in non-league, because you know as well as I do, you know, lads will go and sign for another team for because they've got an Adidas tag rather than an extra £10 or whatever. So it was one of those for me. And I remember them like trying to say to me, look, we want you to come in and we want you to sign this deal and we'll give you this. And I was like, we're all on the same here. I don't understand why you want to give me any extra. And I just said, look, I don't see the point in signing a piece of paper. I play for you, and that's that. And then I remember the next day, it was I think it was the Tuesday, Brian come back to me mum's house and said to me, he lived around the corner from me, which was a bit surprising. You got to remember as well, back then, that there was like people raving about Lee Trundle back then, and Lee's a good friend of mine. I've grown up with Lee all my life, you know, we're still friends to this day. So everyone was talking about Lee. I never really thought anybody thought that I could play football. I just knew that I was half decent. And then I remember the Tuesday, I spoke to Brian on the Tuesday afternoon, and he said to me to meet him outside the Eagle and Child pub in where I live, and he would take me to Bowerfold that night. So I remember like if I close my eyes, I can remember the driving up there. I can remember going down that little windy road round the back. And then I remember when we pulled in onto the car park, and I remember walking into the dressing room, and like the lads were sort of like looking at me like, who's this kid? Do you know what I mean? Who's this lad that he's brought in? And Brian walked me out, you know, at the top of the stand where you could get out to the top of the stand and you look out onto the whole of the pitch. Well, I remember as I walked out, and as I looked out, the lights were on, and I was just like, I felt like I was the smallest person in the world. It just felt like when I looked out, I just felt like there was like 50,000 seats. Do you know what I mean? I was looking at the ground, and I was just like, wow, what are you doing bringing me here? I just play on the park. With my mates. This is bizarre. So I signed and got it done. And I remember speaking to Prescott, and they weren't happy. They were very, very unhappy with me. But at the end of the day, I was like, you know, I've gone from playing on the park to playing in the league below the Football League in the space of 7 days. And I don't know why, but I think I made my debut against Dover on the Saturday. And there were a couple like when I turned up on the Saturday, so we travelled through with the manager, with Brian, and there was Whitty in the car, and there was, I think there might have been Ronnie Goldburn may have been in the car, and I remember walking into the dressing room on the Saturday, having signed, and I remember Brendan Burke and Hawley centre half, and Brendan, and I'll, like, because I was a little scallywag scouser who just walked in, the way Hawley and Brendan treated me, Brendan put his arm around me, and, you know, Brendan was a legend at the club, you know, and still is, you know, a lot of the, you know, and I never remember, he had this, like, leather coat on, and being me, who I am, I think I said something to him like, you know, I said, how come you're not playing? And he said, oh, I'm injured. And being me, I think I said something like, oh, you got an audition for Greece. And I don't think he realised, but that, and then he sort of started laughing, and then he just told me, look, get your head down, it'll be tough, you know, it's not what you're expecting. And he just said, you know, you'll be fine, the lads will look after you out there. And I was like, I don't need nobody to look after me, I'm cool. Bearing in mind, I'd only been to Barcelona and there was no one in there. So gets changed, I'm walking out onto the pitch. As I walks out, it hit me then. And I'm like, there's a few hundred people here. There might even be 1,000 people. I'm looking around, I can just see faces, and you can see people staring at you, who's this? And there's a couple of whispers, and I'm like, oh my God, what? And part of me, my heart sank a little bit, because I was like, you know, I'm all right making a fool of myself on a Saturday or a Sunday when there's one man and his dog there, but there's a lot of people here, and you know, they're expecting something from me. And I remember Carwyn Williams was the forward, he hadn't scored, and I set him up. I think we drew 1-1, and I got man of the match. And it was in the bar, and I was just walking, and everyone was like, oh, you were brilliant, well done, kid. And bearing in mind, it was the only time I'd ever worn a tie for any other occasion other than when I was in trouble. So going into the clubhouse, I've got this big stupid tie on, and and everyone's patting me on the back, and you know, I'm man of the match, Tony Sullivan, go and get you. And I was like, whoa, what is? So it was then, and I just thought, well, if I play like that on my debut, I've got to keep that up. You're under no pressure now, are you? And I know I didn't. I know. I remember I scored a few goals, but I just knew that something happened to me that day when I think, if I'm being honest with you, it probably saved my life. It saved, and I've said this to a lot of people. Brian Kettle was the catalyst to Tony Sullivan changing the way he was, and changing his life around, because playing up in Manchester and playing up at Stalybridge, it was just, I can't, even now when I think about it, still, you know, I still get goosebumps when I think about that time in my life. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great way to start the podcast, especially dedicating the podcast to Cowboy as well. He was one of many people at Stalybridge that appreciated Tony Sullivan and what he did on the pitch, and that's why so many people are looking forward to seeing the. So we've just signed for Stalybridge. Do you remember? Unfortunately for you, I think you're an Everton fan. And do you remember?
Cheers for that.
Do you remember going to Woking away and standing there?
Yeah, we've gone to Woking away. I think Everton just threw them in the cup or something. And so from what I remember, Woking away, they had like a big crazy stand. And I remember, like, when I walked out onto the pitch, and I think Pulver or someone said something to me, you're all right? And I was just like looking around, and they were like, what? And I was like, Everton were in there the other week. I'm like, what am I doing here? You know,
Yeah.
what the best way I can explain it to you is, if you know, I'm from a council estate in Liverpool, and there are a lot of young lads like me out there who play football and dream of going to play in the league or dream to be a professional, and you sort of fall a little bit short from it, and that was me. So when you get asked it, and then you're going to play Ruston and Diamonds, and you've got that electronic scoreboard, and your name's on the electronic scoreboard, you know, when the teams are out, and for 5 minutes you're just staring at your name, and there's all chaos going on around you in the game, and you're just thinking, there's my name up there. And going to Woking, and you know, Woking's got a great history, and you know, the giant killers and all that, and you're going there and you're playing against Woking, and you just, it's like so far from the, like when you leave, you know, from the game, and you're on your way home, and you go back to where you live, and you go back to normality. Stalybridge was like going to, and people might think, why is he saying Stalybridge? It's like Fantasy Island. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that it was, I knew I was safe when I was up there. I knew I wasn't going to get into any trouble. I knew I wasn't going to cause any bother. I knew I didn't have to, you know, I knew that when my friends came to watch me, I knew that there'd be no issues, there'd be no problems. Whereas where I lived and where I came from, we had nothing. We never had anything. So, you know, it was just like being transported to it totally, like people singing your name and fans with your name on the shirt. I mean, I'm just a lad from Liverpool, and there's people who like asking you for autographs. I remember signing my first couple of autographs, and I forgot how to write. So if someone might have an autograph, it's just got like a big squiggle. Do you know what I mean? I'd be going, why are they asking for autographs? And like they'd be like, because they love us. You know, when they ask you for your autograph, it's because you mean something to them. I was like, why are they asking me? Do you know what I mean? I couldn't get my head around it. It was just one of those, like I know, like I mentioned Pova there. Like Pova was, you know, the way he was with us, and there was loads of characters at the club. Martin Tor, Peter Barnes when I first went there. Peter Barnes, Tony, Sully. That's just, you know, it seemed to me like I was one of their own. So when you're talking about going to grounds like going to Woking and places like that, yeah, I was starstruck. I was starstruck most of the places that we ever went to. I remember we played against Brian Kilclarney, who won the FA Cup, and for the first 10 minutes of the game, I was asking what Wembley was like. And he's booting lumps out of me during the game, and I'm just more bothered about what Wembley was like. And played against, there was a guy who played for Leeds, won the league with Leeds. He played against, and I was just asking what it was like to win the league. And everyone else was taking it really serious, and I was just being Sully, I think.
There's many memories that you'll have from your time. What was it like scoring your first hat-trick?
Morecambe.
Yeah.
So, my friends come. My mates, Gary Kane. I'll mention them because they'll be made up if they ever see it. Collins. Yeah, Gary Kane, Colin Skellorn, and Tony Ollier. Tony was the only one of us that had a car, and he was legitimate. He had a driving license and everything. It was sweet. And I remember we goes to the game, and he was saying, "Are you going to be playing?" And I was like, "Your guess is as good as mine." Do you know what I mean? It is what it is. Oh, and I hope you're playing. I hope you're playing. I went, yeah, signed. And then I remember Kenny Myers was marking me, and he had a couple of Scousers in the team. And there was a little bit of needle in the game, you know, and I think anybody who knew me as a player, I mean, you know, I got sent off 5 times when we were in the treble. So sometimes when I lit the touch paper, I couldn't extinguish it, and I'd just explode, and I let myself down, let the club down. But that day, they were just booting me, and I've always said this: if anybody knows me, or anybody's played against me, the best way to stop me from having a good game is be nice to me, talk to me, get on me, have a conversation with me during the game, because I switch off. These started booting me and giving me, who do you think you are? And, giving me a mouthful of abuse and that. And I thought, okay, that's how you want to do it, then we'll do it that way. And I remember scoring, and I remember my first goal when I scored, at the back of I could see all my mates. So I was pointing at my mates, and everyone's jumping round, and my mates are like, just jumping round as well. And I was like, get in. And then I got another one, and I wasn't thinking of getting an hat-trick. And then obviously when the third one went in, it was a bit of pandemonium. It was like, I can't even explain to you the feeling of when you look. I remember vaguely, I just remember like the smiles on people's faces. And it wasn't so much that we'd won the game. I just think people were just happy that I'd done it. Do you know what I mean? It was something that people could always go, remember that hat-trick that kid scored for us. And there was loads of people at the club who always wanted me to do well, because I think they saw me as one of them. I think that was what was the reason why everybody why they related to me a little bit. They knew I wore my heart on my sleeve. They knew that if I played, I'd give it 120% effort. I mightn't be the best player on the park, but they knew I would run from the first to the last whistle. I'd throw myself into tackles where people would be like, he's stupid, him. But it was just a magical day. And I remember the following season, first game of the season, we were at home, and the programmes came out, and the cover of the programme was that game, and there was a picture of me on the programme. And I've still got some. So somebody had took some photographs, and they're still upstairs in the loft as well, with me medals.
So that was one hat-trick you scored. What about the one in the FA Cup against Merthyr Tydfil?
It wasn't a hat-trick.
Oh, was it not?
No. So what happened against? But it's a funny story. So we've gone to Merthyr Tydfil on I think it was a Tuesday, and it was not round the corner, shall we say. It's a long way away. Other than going to the conference, or like going to Yeovil and Dover and places like that, it was miles away. And I remember, I think the game was on S4C, or there was highlights on S4C, and it was FA Cups. I think it was just before. I think we've got Chester in the next round, and I just remember the ball fell to me, and I've struck it. It's gone in, and I remember celebrating. And in non-league, you celebrate with your fans because they're behind the goal. And I've ran round the back of the goal, and I'm thinking, why isn't nobody jumping round? And it wasn't our fans; it was their fans. And I've heard some insults, but they sound funnier when they're in a Welsh accent, and they're trying to throw meat pies at you. And I was like running like with my hand up, and I realised that the further along I was running, the closer I was getting to them. So I tried to turn around and go the other way, and they were throwing stuff that side. So I was sort of stuck between a load of meat pies. So I finally got myself away, and then we got them in it was a replay. We got them back at our place, and I scored in the replay as well. They put the team side report said a 25-yard thunderbolt, but I reckon it was a 35-yard rocket.
You scored 55 goals in your time at Stalybridge.
Should have scored a hell of a lot more. I missed far too many chances.
Do you have one that stands out more than any other?
Free kick against Barrow, 1-0. the Bowerfold Bog. Gary Bresson only took free kicks. I think Gary was injured that day. Put the ball down, and I remember I was standing over it, and someone said, "Are you going to hit it?" And I said, "Well, do you want it?" No. And I think this conversation lasted about 5 or 6 seconds. Next thing, I've just ran and hit it. It's gone right in the stanchion. And I think every person in the ground was shocked. First of all, that it had gone in. Second of all, someone allowed me to take the free kick. I scored an hat-trick against Aki away. And my mate Jamie Spear, he was their goalkeeper. And when the third one went in, I stood over him. And he grabbed me by the throat and nearly popped my eye out because he squeezed my head that hard. And he was going to kill me because I was laughing at him because I scored a hat-trick. Bearing in mind, I looked up to Jamie Spear because he was the first, when I was following Everton, I still follow Everton, when go to the game, you'd see Jamie in the programme, and he was one of the only black lads who played for the club. So I had a lot of respect for Jamie. I've never ever told him that. But against Accrington. Other goals. There wasn't that many to talk about. So I know. I think I enjoyed more setting goals up as well, because if the majority of goals that are set up for Parry or Jonah or Matty McNeil or other strikers that were on the pitch, Nige and that, I'd probably just put it on a plate for them and they'd only have to tap it in. It was, you know what I mean? So I think assisting goals for me was I enjoyed the feeling of scoring goals. I'm not, you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, but I think I assisted a hell of a lot more than what I scored.
One of the main highlights of your Celtic career must be the treble season. I know you was at the treble reunion night and spoke about it then. But for people that weren't there, what was it like to be involved in that squad?
Well, I'll probably, this might take a little while now. So you gotta look at it. So I've been there for a significant period of time. I've seen good lads come and go. Mark Powell's, Loopy Couto. Good lads. I've seen managers, Mel Sterling and him, David Hardy, who didn't like me, or Trundle. And Trundle had gone then. And we had a bit of a bust-up with Sterling and Vardy, and they wanted rid of us. And then I remember Mark Hine, who used to play, he wanted rid of me as well. I signed for Winsford, and Dalton Steele. I didn't want to leave Stalybridge, and I'd gone and had a conversation with Dalton at a training session, and I signed the form because I just thought my time was up at Stalybridge. And then I got a phone call from Peter Barnes. What's this, American? You've left? I said, I've been told I'm surplus to requirements. He said, that's not happening. The fans will go mad. You need to get back. And when I turned back up, Martin Tour and that were like, what's going on? And I was just telling them, and they were just like, no, but there's going to be changes, blah, blah, blah. And then there was Boody who came in with Kev Keelan, and they were really good for me as well. They always had me back. And bear in mind, I didn't drive at this time. So one time, this is prior to the treble season, I used to get the train, me and Lee Sunderland. Lee didn't turn up one day. And I was on the train, and I remember waking up. I felt dozed off, and I remember waking up. And I just said I looked out the window and I was like, I don't recognise this. I don't know what's going on. So I just said to some guy on the train, hey mate, where am I? And he went, next stop's Leeds. I said, where's Stalybridge? He went, it's 4 stops back the other way. I went, what? He went, it's 4 stops back the other way. I had to get off the train. I had to run across more or less run across the tracks at Leeds Central Station, jump on a train, got back to Stalybridge, and when I got to the training session, it had finished. And then I had to get back on the train and get home. So the club had been really supportive of me because of, you know, I'd been in a bit of trouble back in Liverpool as well, and obviously signing. I think I'd signed a deal under Sterling and Vardy, and that got me out of the trouble that I'd got into back at home. And the club were fantastic with me, unbelievable. They made sure that, you know, the issue that I'd had back home, it got sort of resolved, and I was, you know, free to just get on. As long as I didn't get into any more trouble, I was fine. And then I didn't resent signing the deal. I resented I was signing the deal because I think Sterling and Vardy stitched me up a little bit. But look, I wasn't a kid then. I was old, but I was still, you know, I was still a young lad at heart. So I did not hold any grudges over that. And I remember we played a game, and I think Kev Keelan had just left. I'm unsure whether he came just before Phil or there was someone prior to them, but I'm almost certain it was Kevin. Keelan had gone. We weren't doing really well. There was a couple of issues on the pitch, and we weren't producing the results, and the fans were getting a bit disgruntled. And I just remember we had a game. I think I was on the bench, and I kept, like, I was looking up into the stand, and I could just see this. I could just see this fella who looked like he'd just come back from the Bahamas. He had a great tan. He was in the middle of Manchester. I was like, this fella shouldn't be here. And then rumour gets round, it's Phil Wilson. And I was really scared to meet Phil, to be fair, because of what I'd heard about him previously. And he came in, and he took no prisoners, to be fair. When he first came in, he sort of made it quite clear who he wanted to stay and who he didn't. And I was probably one of those maybes, I think. Was it worth taking a chance on? You know, was I a liability? And to be fair to Phil, he made sure I turned up at every training session. He came and picked me up. He came literally practically at my front door and was collecting me for football. And for somebody to go out the way and do that for you, you know, you've got to give them 110%. So he had my full backing, and people always used to call me son of Phil, and I probably was a little bit, because I think Phil and Wardy, when Wardy came in, that was just, for me, that was the turning point for me, bringing Peter Ward in, because Peter Ward got me. I don't know what it was, but Peter Ward understood me. He understood what made me tick. He understood everything about me. He understood when there was things going on back home, you know, because I was like doing my best to stay out of bother. You know, Phil got me a job. You know, I was working. I couldn't believe it. You know, I was, you know, all these things that they were doing to help me, and I was like, well, I've got to give them everything I've got, every single bit of Tony Sullivan. I'm going to make sure that these two see the real, you know, who I could potentially be. And then I remember he started bringing in, like, Matty Williamson came in, and, you know, Scotty, and me and Scotty was a really, really good friend of mine. We had Degsy Ward was already there, and Cookie came in, and Filson came in. And then we had Gary Barres, Jonah was already still there, and you just started to see Dominic Crooks, Lockie, Gary Ingham, God rest his soul, and you just started to see something was happening. And we just had this, and I think it was this pre-season, and I don't think many people know this story. So we had, you know, when you have Charles that come into the games, you know, to come pre-season, we had this lad, I couldn't remember his name, but he came and he was saying he played reserve team football in Italy, and we were like, there's no reserves teams in Italy, what's he talking about? And he was one of those lads who just, you know, he came all the time, trained. Look, I'm not going to turn around and say anybody's a good or bad player, but every time he was like, so Phil would, like, say to him, you know, do you want a game kind of thing? Let's have a look at you kind of thing. So when training in the training games, he didn't stand out much, but not. I wasn't. Sometimes I was absolutely awful in training. If you watch me in training, you'd never have wanted me to put a kit on sometimes. So this lad was in, and we played. I can't think. Maybe it was away, and we're doing the warm up. So Gary's taking us across the pitch. So we're jogging all across the pitch, and we just turn around. The next thing, it's some sunny day pre-season. Philly's clipboard's gone up in the air, and he's throwing punches at this lad. So we've all ran over, like pulled them apart. Philly's going, get out, and he's going, you can't do that to me. And Philly's going, I can't do that. Like there was a bit of an altercation, and it was over because Phil had just said to him, look, enough's enough. I've offered you an opportunity. You don't want to take it. He kept like going to see, like saying he was injured all the time to Pove and stuff like that. Or I think it was Pove there. I'm not too sure. And I just remember he kept like saying he was injured all the time. And then that season we sort of started off, and I think we were quite physical. So you had Filson, who was a battering ram, and you had Matty McNeil, who, by the way, he was hard work, Matty, to play with. He was the angriest person. He was the most angriest, gentlest person I've ever met in my life. If that makes any sense to anybody. You couldn't have a laugh at him on the coach because he'd just tell me to go away. I used to just wind him up all the time. He'd just tell me to go. He'd just go, Sully, go away from me now. And I'd go, come on, Matty. And at that time, Ali G was out, and Matty had an Ali G tracksuit. So I just skipped him over his clobber, and he wasn't happy. Sometimes he'd want to hit me, but he couldn't catch me because I'd just run away from him, because Matty was a big lad. And he brought Matty in, and I think he was one of the big catalysts, Matty, to be fair to him. He was, him and Jonah at times, totally unplayable. Sid and Kev Parr, the Manchester Mafia. I mean, those two, they came in, and Philly really worked us hard that pre-season. It was horrible. But we just knew that there was something, and then we kept like scoring goals in the last couple of minutes of games, and we kept like just pulling ourselves out of sticky situations. And I remember that season I got sent off at home against Emily. Gary Addo punched me off the ball, and Filson saw it, and Filson ran over, got into tackled him. John McCrooks had tackled him. Filson ran over, and I've ran over and I've poked him in the eye, and I got sent off. And I said to the referees punched me off the ball, and he said, so I haven't seen that, but I know what you've done. So obviously I've been sent to the stands, and I went into the stands with the fans and sang a couple of true songs about Mr. Addo. But they were big ding dong battles. But I think once we knew we beat them at home, and we had 10 men, and then we had some tough games on that run. But we just, every time they won, we'd win, and we just got to the stage where we didn't even. I don't think they checked our results because we didn't check theirs, because we knew it'd all go down to when we met each other again. And then the team spirit that we had, the bonding, the camaraderie, everything about us. I mean, that was the pre-season. I smashed Matty Williamson's car window pre-season after we went to train, and there was a load of gravel, and Scotty was giving me the V's because I didn't have a lift back to the ground. And I threw a load of gravel at him and smashed his window. So cost me a few quid as well, that, to be fair. I was devastated. And we had like young Matty, who, what a centre half he was for us. Like, honest to God, he could play, that kid. And we had some technically really good players, but we had some lads who, like, you work as, you know what I mean, like to myself, Kev, Sid, could play but could work as well. But you had like Gary Beresson, who just led us, and I mean led us properly. Wouldn't accept anything less. If you pulled out of a tackle, God help you when you went in that dressing room. If you didn't work hard, you didn't track back. We were all in sync with each other, but we all had each other's back. So if something happened to one of us, so say there was a bad tackle, whoever hit you with that tackle in the game, three players, two or three of the lads, would make sure they'd let them know that what they'd done. Do you know what I mean? So they get them in that tackle. And I think sometimes when we were lining up in the tunnel, you could just see, like when you're walking out and they're looking at you, you just knew we've beat you. We usually have to start. We're going to work harder than you. We're going to be faster than you. We're going to be better than you. We're going to want it more than you. And I think that was probably one of the big things about that season. And then obviously the fans. I think the fans knew something was happening, something special was happening, because you could just tell after games. When that you could see that, the excitement, the buzz before the game. Before the game, you'd watch the ground just filling up and filling up and filling up, and there'd be people like, one of the fans bought me a pair of boots. I didn't even say anything, played in them, scored in the game. The fans, everyone around the club, everybody, even after the game in the bar, we'd all stay in the bar after the game. You wouldn't get home from Stalybridge on a Saturday till 7:30, 8 o'clock. And that was all of us. We'd all stay behind and have a drink with each other and have a drink with the fans and have a conversation with the fans. And the fans felt part of the team as well. They were. When people say like the 12th man and things like that, they would have, we had 100,000 extra players sometimes because of the way the fans were with us. Personally, I couldn't look at any of those fans after the game knowing that I hadn't worked hard for them. They were paying my wages as far as I was concerned. Some of them were going out and doing 9 to 5 jobs or whatever, and the highlight of their week was coming to watch Celtic, have a pint, and come and watch the lads. And it just literally grew from there. It was just like an outstanding achievement from everybody at the club, not just us as the players, but the chairman, Peter Donnelly, and all the board members and the bar staff, Myra, everybody. It was everybody's achievement. It was everybody's treble. That's how it felt to me, because we were doing it for each other. We had some. We had a lot of rivalries. You know what I mean? That was going around. We had the Alties. That was a big rivalry at that moment in time as well with us. And we had some other, a lot of people didn't like Phil as well, to be fair, because of the way he was. Some players didn't like him, but I'd prefer a manager. He'd just tell you if you weren't good enough or why you weren't playing. Do you know what I mean? Wardy would be the glue, the thing that bound us all together. The way Wardy was, honestly, and he's still involved in the game today. He's forgot more than some of these people think that they actually know. Wardy was absolutely brilliant for us. He was brilliant for me. He was like I thought of him and still do.
Thank you for that. And you mentioned that you knew it was coming down to that Emily game. Recall that for us.
So we've gone with the Thursday night. We've gone to a gym for a sauna and a steam, and it's where I got a bit of. I don't know if the fan. I know some fans were aware of it, but there is some footage of the game, and if you look at the footage of the game, you'll notice it seems to have a skinhead. All by two people. One was Matty Williamson because he looked like Thor, and the other one was Phil Wilson, because Philly was never letting me near his head with a pair of head shavers. But every single player on that Thursday night, I was known as the barber of the bridge for a couple of weeks because I brought head shavers and we all shaved our hair. And I remember when we got down there, we've walked in and we're trying to keep our distance. And I'm saying to myself, if you play, do not get sent off. If you get sent off, you know what I mean, you're done. Yeah. That's it. You've let, this is your time to redeem yourself for what happened. And everybody knew I had a reputation anyway, so get underneath my skin, like the match, and off I pop. And we were in the tunnel before the game, and they had some big units, and they had some good players, Banbrooks, Ginger, I know his name, it'll come to me in a minute. They had a big centre half. It was Charlesy. Wow, an absolute monster. He didn't scare me when I was on the pitch, but off the pitch he scared me, if that makes sense. When I was on the pitch, I just didn't care. But off the pitch, if he'd have got hold of me, he'd have pulled my head clean off, but it didn't bother me. When I was on the pitch, he was just another person. And we were lining up in the tunnel, I just remember we were just looking straight ahead, and we were all looking across at them, just like, and they're all like standing there, and as they're looking down the line, they're thinking, none of these have got any hair. What's going on? And there was only Matty with his hair like nice and long, and we were just like looking, just focused, just saying, this is where it happens. This is where we, it wasn't like, you see two boxers and they go face to face, but they've got respect for each other.
Yeah, that's
what it felt like. There was no like, we're going to do this. It was like, we'll see out here. Make sure you're ready. That kind of talk. We'll see who's ready. We'll see. You do what you've got to do. We'll do what we've got to do. We'll see let the best team win. And it was great. I could feel that the atmosphere was unreal. And I remember walking out and just hearing the fans. And there was, I don't know how many travelled up from Stalybridge, but I'll tell you, I think it felt like there was thousands there. And you could just see the flags and the scarves and it was just like, I remember looking up and I was just thinking to myself, I have to make sure that today I don't leave nothing. I leave everything on that pitch. I leave everything I've got. And I remember Party. Party got sent off for punching a little lad in the face. I was, at the time, I was like, oh, Party, what have you done? I was giving him loads, saying, Party, what have you done? I'd done the same thing about 4 months before, because it was him and it was such a big game. I was made up inside. I'm thinking, he's right. I'm not getting it now. He's getting it. I'd say to him, Party, did you poke him in the eye with your nose? And we were just like, we were like, oh no. But even then we knew. I missed a great chance as well. Clean through 1-on-1. And Sky done highlights at the time. And the guy said, Sullivan clean through, wasteful. I want to know who he is. I'd like to have a conversation with that fella. Because my mates taped it, and I think one of my mates has still got it now. And I just remember I remember the ball going over the top. I'd just come off. I was done. 2-2. A draw would have done us anyway. But when that ball went over the top and Cookie went on, there was no other player, not one other player that you wanted that to land to. Because Cookie, that was his signature goal. I don't know how many times you see him do. He'd done that over the top. Goalie comes out, lifts it over his head, goal, 3-2. And then pandemonium. And I remember looking up at the crowd and just seeing limbs. There was just arms and legs everywhere. We were running around, going mental. They'd all sunk to the knees, and we knew then that was it for them. They couldn't go to the well again. They couldn't go back to the, you know what I mean? They couldn't go back to the well, and we knew once we got in front, that was it. We weren't getting beaten. And then I remember after the game, the dressing room, they were buzzing, and they were like, their manager and Phil didn't really get on. I think they do now, but at the time they didn't get on, and there was a little bit of like, oh, you just don't play footy the right way and all this, and we were like, well, you got to win. It's all about winning titles. That's what we're here to do. We're here to win the title. We're here to give ourselves the best chance. And then we knew then that it was in our hands. And I remember we had to go to Droylsden on the Monday night, and BBC News wanted to come and cover the game because of, like, don't forget as well, they achieved over 100 points that season and didn't win a league. For a team to do that and not to win a league, the other team has to be special. And we just happened to be that other team that season. And being around that, being there and thereabouts of it all, if I had never played football again after that point, it wouldn't have mattered to me. Just to see the look on people's faces, going to Droylsden. My two uncles came to watch the game. I got the penalty, I think, as well. And Lockie scored, and celebrating with the fans at the Butcher's Arms. And, look, I know Droylsden's no longer in existence, and I know what, a lot of people might say mightn't sort eye to eye with Pacey, but Pacey and Droylsden were a big part of football in Tameside at that time, and they had some really good teams, some good players, and that rivalry was why non-league football is so special. We were just working class lads, ordinary fans, but you could actually go and you could go to the games and have that banter and have that friendly banter. There was never any nastiness with it. It was always banter. You know what I mean? And going there and winning and beating them 1-0. And I remember standing on the wall and my uncles were there, and I remember filling up because I was like, if anything, you look back at like achievements that you've had. That was the most notable achievement that I've had in my life at that point. I'd never done anything really other than signing for Stalybridge, but knowing that you're going to go down, and as long as Stalybridge Celtic's in existence, you're going to be known as one of those history makers, because we made history that season. Knowing that that we were part of a group of lads, brothers, whatever people want to call us, part of a club. It was a club thing. It wasn't, like I said before, it wasn't just an individual thing or a players thing. We were part of a club that achieved, practically what was, at that time, we weren't expected to do that. It was impossible. And we did it, and did it in style as well. We didn't crawl over that line. We made sure. I think we lost the last game at home, that when we had the trophy presentation. But other than that, we were on it. Filson wouldn't have had anything less from us. Wardy, even Myra, if we had a bad game or we didn't play well, Myra would tell you when she was giving you a chili con carne. Do you know what I mean? That's how close it was. That's what it felt like. It was just, even thinking about it now, if someone said to you, well, drop you back off at a point in your life, I'd probably go back to then sometimes, because that's when I was, that's when we were happy. That's when it just felt right. It was unbelievable. It was an absolute fantastic achievement by everybody involved.
So that sort of brings us to the end of that time at Stalybridge. Before we move on, I've got a couple of stories to try and get from you.
Let me see if my kids aren't here, so go ahead, Oriel.
And then I'm sure you've got plenty of stories for us, just about anything that happened at Stalybridge. So the couple I've got, there was one where you and Lee Trundle turned up to Blythe by yourselves, and there's one where Sid got his teeth done.
So the first one, Lee Tunnell was an outstanding footballer, unbelievable. One of the, had a fantastic career, done really, really well. But probably should have started his career a little bit earlier. I think when we were at Stalybridge, bear in mind, we both lived in the same street. So the chances of two lads both signing for Stalybridge Celtic, both grew up on the same estate, lived in the same street, was, you couldn't have written that. It was just bizarre. And I remember we'd miss a couple of training sessions. I remember I nearly poked my eye out on a train once when we used to have to get the train because we didn't drive. And we were messing around with these two girls, and I poked a straw, pretending I was doing a magic trick, trying to be an idiot with these two girls. And I nearly poked myself in the eye. And Sunday used to laugh at each other all the time. Just used to wind each other up and just do stupid things together. Do you know what I mean? And we were playing away, and there was a big night out on in Liverpool, and we needed to get back. But if we'd have gone to Stalybridge and then to Blythe, we'd have had to go back to Stalybridge and then home. So we wouldn't have got, so from Blythe to Stalybridge, not getting back till about 8 o'clock, 8, 9, especially if you stop off on the way. And then by the time we get to that, from Stalybridge back home, is another hour and a half. So we're not getting out till 10:30, and we really wanted to get out. So we knew a couple of girls who had the car, so we decided we've got to be careful in case my missus hears me. And we knew that these girls had the car, so we coerced them, shall we say. Just said, do you want to come and watch us play footy? Oh, yeah. They didn't know they were going to Blythe. So we made them drive us all the way to Blythe. They waited and watched the game against Blythe. Bearing in mind, Blythe wasn't at that time a nice place to go. Do you know what I mean? You got quite a bit of stick as well. So, and then we got changed, jumped in the car, and it was the longest car. I was saying to Lee, we should have got on the coach because the car journey wasn't great because it was freezing. They were freezing. Bearing in mind, women are like getting dressed as well. So they shot us home, and then obviously they weren't best pleased with us. It was okay. It was fun. The other time, so we're going to meet, and we're like, where's Sid? So we had this system where if you were late, you had to pay a fine. So everyone, where's Sid? Where is he? He's late. Party's here. Where's Sid? So Party only stitches Sid up. Sid has only gone and got a brand new set of teeth. And he's had a Thai green curry the night before. Got up the next morning, went to brush his teeth, and his veneers are green. So could you imagine Ginger Sid with green teeth? He couldn't turn up because he wouldn't have lasted on the coach. And I'm not going to lie, it would have been a hell of a journey for him. It still was, because I think I made up a little, like, my mate Sid, his head is as red as the sun, his teeth are as green as the grass, and he got hammered all the way to the game, and he probably had a worldie anyway because he was that good, Sid. I don't know between him and Party who had the brain. I think they used to swap brains with each other sometimes because they had them were thick. Wow. They were hard graft, them two, but two absolutely fantastic lads. Absolutely fantastic. Brilliant to play with, privileged to even to be around them and to call them friends still to this day.
Do you have anything else that happened in your time?
So, Carl Marginson played for us. And he goes in for a tackle. And I heard like a yelp. So as I've walked over, I'm looking down, and the lad's nicked him in between the legs, and it looked like a golf ball was hanging out, and he's lying on the pitch, and he's going to me, Sully, don't make me laugh, please, Sully, don't make me laugh. But I'm trying to make light of what I've actually seen, but it's made me feel pretty sick. And he's, as he's going off on the stretcher, and I'm going to, Margie, it'll be all right, they'll tuck that back in for you, kid. And he's like, Sully, please don't make me laugh, don't make me laugh. And he'd nicked down below, and he'd hurt himself really, really badly. I just thought it was hilarious. I just thought it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in football. And he just didn't find it one bit funny at all. What else? Wow, there's too many things. So Lee Mason, Premier League referee, we're playing against Alty, and his brother Andy has played in the first game, and there was an issue with his registration, so we've had to play them again in the second game at Stalybridge Celtic. And there was what can only be described as we've gone in at half time and there's murder in the tunnel. Now, you know the tunnel at Stalybridge, it's not the biggest of places, is it? And there's punches getting thrown, it's heavy in there. You know, you like, it's gone off. And the next thing that just seemed like 4 legs and dangling from the, down, where you walk out of the tunnel, you look up and the stands there. Yeah. Just seeing these two sets of legs hanging over. And the next thing, like Batman and Robin landed in the middle of everyone. And it was Lee Mason and his dad. And they've joined in the scrap.
I'm sure he didn't want to be that to be public knowledge.
It was a long time before he'd become a Premier League official, let me tell you. But yeah, they were involved. There was the time when we used to, we had like the likes of Josh Howard who came. He was he was a heavy footballer. Josh, he'd been released by Manchester United, and he was, me and him got on really, really well. And I think me and him being there at the same time wasn't good for me, and it wasn't good for him because I was always up to no good. And what else? Oh, another time at Sunderland when we went to Yeovil away, and Sterling and Varady were the managers. And there was a party in the hotel, and it was full of vets, animal vets. Can't even say the word. I don't know why. So we're in the bar. He said, right, you want you all in bed by 10 o'clock. You've all got to be upstairs in bed by 10 o'clock. So me and Sunderland in the bar. Next thing, just sees young girl, another one. What's going on in there? Yeah, let's go in and have a look. Opens the door. It's full of young women. We're in our stadium with Celtic Sackies. So I said, come on, we'll go in for one. So he goes, come on then. So we're in there, just sitting down. Next thing, said, I'll go to the bar. I had a drink. I'll go to the bar again. Go ahead then. I goes to the bar. As I goes to the bar, I walks back and I'm going back to where I was sitting, and I'm turned down. I'm like, where is he? I thought, he's talking to someone here. Something like that. Walking. Next thing, I seen the door open. I could see like someone's pointing at you, but you don't know who's pointing at you. And it was, I think it was Mel Sterling, and it was Trundle pointing at me, telling him that I'd just been in a bar, and he was telling me not to go and get the alien. And then after the game, we played Yeovil, and we didn't play well, and Sterling and Varady gave it to the pair of us, and I burst out laughing. The pair of them were like absolutely hammering me to the point where I was like, wow. And I just started laughing because I just thought, it's either that or we're going to end up coming to blows. And I'm not really that interested in what you've got to say because they didn't like me anyway, do you know what I mean? I just got the impression that they didn't like me. But no, there was so many times. I think for me, the best stories I can tell you is when you go to the game or after the game and people have little nicknames. So Marty used to call me TT. Do you know what I mean? And the nickname, what one of the fans said to, that only came from Stalybridge. Some of the things like just the best story that to come out of Stalybridge was the person that I am today. Because if it wasn't for Stalybridge, I wouldn't be who I am today. If I wasn't, with the likes of Ginge and Cowboy and them, and they'd be open and frank and honest with me about games and performances, or about how they felt the team was doing. And even going back, later on in my career, and being able to go and go back and say hello to them, and the way that I was still thought of, that's the best story that ever came out of that place for me. Yeah. Being invited onto this podcast, and still being thought of as I'm an old man now. I'm 46 years of age. I'm not that little kid anymore, but I probably wouldn't have made it. I'm lucky to be 46 if I'm being honest with you, in terms of, because I don't know where my life was heading at that time. And the best story I could ever tell you is, and the best thing I could ever say about the club is, and I've said this a few times, is it saved me. It saved me life. If it wasn't for the support that I got off the club, and more importantly, if it wasn't for how the fans embraced me and how the fans made me feel and made me the person that I am today. So the best story would probably be that. Owen scoring 2 against Hyde on New Year's Day for the first time that we beat them in many a year. I don't think I bought a berry that day in the bar. We beat them. I'd scored twice. I think we beat them 2-1. And I remember one of the fans. I thought he was crying. We hadn't beat them for ages, and he was like, "I can't." He was like, "I am so made up. We beat them," and I didn't realise how passionate people were about the Tameside derby. And doing that was a special occasion for me as well. I think it was, everything about it is just it's a memory that I never ever want to forget.
Yeah. So after that is when you followed Phil Wilson to a couple of clubs.
Well, I didn't want to follow Phil to Southport at first. And if I'm being honest, it was a period of time where I completely sort of tried not to even think about it, about leaving Stalybridge, because it hurt me. I got told. So basically what had happened was Phil had got the Southport job, and I'd not spoken to Phil about it. I'd not spoken to anybody. I don't think anybody could get hold of me, to be fair. So I remember we got invited back to Stalybridge to have a meeting with the new manager, and I remember going in, and I remember we met in the pub, the pub at the top of that is it still there? The pub at the top of the hill at Bowerfold as you come into the car park. It's like a pub. There was like a pub on the right hand side. I think.
So if you're going up the road.
As you're driving into the car park, I think there used to be a pub on the little corner there, or it might have been the pub up the road. So we're all having this. So we've all said to each other, like, we'll go into the pub. All the players went in, every one of us, and whatever they say, we'll come out and we'll say to each other. We'll tell each other. So it's like, all right, sound brilliant. So the lads go in, come back out, go in, come back out, go back in, come back out. And bearing in mind, we've just been promoted to the conference. Bearing in mind, I've just had my best goals return for the club. I've been a pivotal part of what we've achieved. And I remember a striker had gone in prior to me. He'd been injured all season, didn't really play a part. And they told him that they wanted to keep him. And I went in, and I just remember him saying to me, we appreciate what you did last season, but we want to keep you on what you're currently on. And bearing in mind, I was one of the lowest paid players at the club anyway. And I was just like, well, yeah, you know, I was like, okay, I'll need to think about that. And I think, and you know, when somebody says that to you, if someone says, I need to think about it, if you want them to stay, you come back with, well, what do you think? And he went, all right, sound, just let us know. And I knew then I knew I was gone. And I'd rather either just said, look, our type of player. I don't think they wanted to make the decision themselves to let me go because there might have been an issue with a couple of the supporters. I don't know. That might just be me being big-headed. I don't know, but I don't think they felt it had gone down too well. So, and I remember Philly rang me then. So we'd all gone to meet up, and so we'd all saying it, and like a couple of lads were like, yeah, they've offered me this, and I was like, he's told me he can give me what I was on last year, but other lads were getting offered more, and I didn't want to be on more than anybody, but I wanted to be on what everybody else was on.
Yeah.
And then this other striker, he told me that they'd offered him more money. They asked him what he was on, and they'd offered him more money, and I was like, you never played? You hardly played? And he went, no. And then I knew then. So then I got, one thing led to another, and I think I'd spoken to Filson. And I spoke to Filson, and I just said, you know, I don't think I'm going to stay, and I don't want to leave, but I think it's being left in my own hands to make the decision to go. So, you know, if somebody doesn't want you there, if they're not prepared to tell you, then just, you know what I mean, just cut your ties with them. And then I spoke to Filson, and then I got a phone call off. I think I'd spoken to Gary, and he said, well, Philly wants to speak to you. And then obviously Philly just said, look, you know, we want to come, and you know, it's a big club, blah blah blah. And I was like, my heart's at Stalybridge, but you know, I'm not wanted there, so yeah, not a problem. And then obviously I went to Southport, and then I went to Lancaster with Phil, and then I started to sort of fall out of love with it because I just felt as though the game was changing in terms of, like, you'd get a lot of players who were more interested in how they looked, and it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't like Stalybridge versus Emily, those type of battles, or Stalybridge versus Alty, or Stalybridge versus Hyde, or Stalybridge versus Drills. It wasn't like that. There was lads who just, they'd leave a team at the drop of a hat for an extra £10 and a different tracksuit, you know what I mean? There was no loyalty in the game, and I started seeing, like, if players were, like, I could accept not being in the team as long as it was told the reason. But these lads were getting told the reason, and then they'd be backstabbing in the dressing room, and it just wasn't for me. I just thought that's it. This isn't the game that it was 2 or 3 years ago. And I think probably some managers will say the same now as well, in terms of, you know, I think players need to understand and realise and respect that these clubs have been around for 60, 70, 80 years. Long before them and long after them, they'll still be going. They're no more, the club is more important than the individual. It's as simple as that. And you have to buy into the club's way of doing things. And if it's not for you, fine. But don't be disrespectful to clubs or to managers if you know, they don't think you're good enough. That's their opinion. You just have to, you know, you have to roll your sleeves up. You have to crack on with it. But don't go around dressing rooms and causing issues. And, you know, when if it doesn't go your way, like when I left Stalybridge, I never ever slagged the manager off or slagged the club off. It was what it was. That was it. His opinion, and he's entitled to it. You know, it's entitled. Anyone, you know, my opinion is different to anybody else's opinion. You know what I mean? I didn't hold a grudge about it. It hurt me. Do you know what I mean? It hurt me because I felt as though I wanted to stay, but it just wasn't for me.
Yeah. So you mentioned the clubs then, and then after leaving football, you moved into management and coaching.
Well, I became a school teacher as well, believe it or not. I got a degree in, again, if it wasn't for meeting Brian Kettle, Phil Wilson and Stalybridge Celtic, I got a degree. I'm a school teacher now. I work in a school in Widnes, St. Peter and Paul Catholic College. I teach the maths, do the RP lesson now and again, and I've went into management as well, and I enjoyed it. But again, some of my frustration wasn't about clubs; it was more about players and attitudes and things like that. But It is what it is. It is what it is. I enjoyed at Leeds. We never had a penny, had nothing, and nearly achieved something that would have been really special. Had some really good lads at the club, and are very similar to Stalybridge in terms of the team spirit and the mentality and the togetherness. I think that gets you so far in football. If everybody's pulling in the same way, everyone's rowing in the same way, everybody believes in your philosophy, everyone believes in what you want to do, and everybody sticks together from the person who pumps the balls up to the person who picks the bibs up. You're all the same. There's no hiding it. Everybody's treated the same way. If you don't, you get told. And we had that sort of mentality at Leeds. And then I think I left Leeds a little bit too early. Went to Witten, and I wasn't successful at Witten. And I held my hands up and took responsibility for that. And a lot of people say, well, there are other external factors. No, there was no external factor. We weren't good enough. It was in our own hands. We got ourselves into a position where, we could have been successful, but we didn't. And at the end of the day, I was the manager. It was my name above the door, so I take responsibility. And then obviously I ended up back at Celtic, and that was just brilliant. I lost my way a little bit, and Liam, and I know Liam Watson is somebody who my family's indebted to through his work with my brother, because obviously, I think some of the fans might recognise or know my brother because he's been to a couple of games with Liam, at Stalybridge games when Liam was the manager there, and he's looked after my brother. My brother got himself into trouble, and I could have been my brother. That's the life I could have went down, and Liam ended up looking after my brother where Liam worked, and I didn't really get on with Liam at first. Me and Liam sort of didn't see eye to eye, but I had to show him the respect that he deserves because of the relationship he developed with my brother, and as a family we're forever indebted to him because he put a lot of time, a lot of effort into my brother, and I wouldn't have a bad word said against him, Liam, in terms of. And then when he brought me to the club, and it was just to come and look at the training at first, and there was me, Earl, and the other Sully, and then asking me to stay, and it was just unbelievable. I think it was right for the club at that time, because I think it felt like there was a bit of a gap between the playing side and obviously the fans, and trying to rekindle that relationship. And I think trying to do that through somebody like yourself might have helped, and I'd like to think it did for the short period of time that I was there, and I really enjoyed it. I loved my time at Stalybridge. I've always said that it's just a fantastic place to go and work, or to be part of. So, and then obviously when Liam left, and then I spoke to Philo, and Philo had the DC to ring me up and say, look, Saul, I've got my own team, and I was like, Philo, I appreciate the call, mate. If there's anything I can do to help, that's not a problem. And then and then I ended up at Skelmersdale with Tommy, and then I went to Marine, and then I've ended up now at Lowbreck Road, which is a local county side, and I'm really enjoying that. You know, we should have got promoted. Obviously with everything that's going on and the null and void and all the rest of it, it's left a bit of a sour taste. But you know, it's a place that you know, I think if I work or I'm involved, I give everything that I've got. And you know, Lower Breath, if we can get to the Evo stick, then you know, I think that'll be it for me. Then I think if we can get to the Evo stick, I think I might just take a step back and just go and watch some games, or probably even get a season ticket somewhere. It's a job that I think until we get to that point, I don't think I'd be able to rest easy, simply because of all the hard work that goes on behind the scenes. You know, the manager Gary and Jim Davis, you know, Mikey, you know, everybody involved at the club. You know, Ian and Little Dylan and people like that. You know, they're just people like me who are trying to give a local community something to be proud of, and I'm all for that, because that was me 20 years ago. You know, I was in the same position, just wanting to do better for myself and wanting to make people proud of you for the right reasons, rather than them looking up to you for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, that's good to hear. So, final few questions for you.
Go ahead.
You mentioned Trundle quite a bit in this podcast. Would you say he's the best player you played with at Stalybridge, or is it anybody else?
Technically, by far, but I couldn't. There were two. That Sebelin inside was it had everything. If you needed somebody to go and throw the body on the line in the last minute, you didn't need to look no further than Crooksy or Filson. If you needed someone to do something just unreal, like Matty McNeil, you know, just a flash of brilliance. You had Scotty, who was just an outstanding fullback with Degsy on the other side, who never, you know, who were hard to get past. If I used to think it was tough getting past them in training, so I couldn't imagine how hard it was if they didn't like it. You know, there was just Brendan Burke when I first went there, just another fantastic player. I think that Sebelin inside, though, you know, there were a lot of players. I think probably a player who doesn't get much plaudits, but and I don't think people understand how important he was Steve Jonah. What a player he was. Played centre midfield, played up front, never moaned, got on with it, never got into any bother on the pitch, scored important goals, worked hard, not afraid of a tackle, and just a genuinely. He was a manager's dream as a player. Where I might have been a manager's nightmare now and again, Jonah was a manager's dream. So I'd probably say Jonah was probably the best player.
Many people describe you as a funny man, but you have to pick another player from Stalybridge. Who would you say the funniest player was?
I would say Matty McNeil, simply because he didn't realise how funny he was, but it was because when he was angry with me, it used to make me laugh. People would say to me, "Sully's going to kill you," and I'd just go, "He's all right. He's not going to do nothing to me. He's my mate Matty," and he'd just say, "Go away from me now." He wouldn't let me sit next to him on the bus, which used to make me laugh. Kev Parr and Sid were funny. But Matty McNeil, some of the things he would like. We'd say to him, he's tight. He would be tight. Do you know, like, you know, you went to shop for something or like you went and got beers or something, he just wouldn't buy. He wouldn't spend no money, and we'd be standing him for it, and he'd just be like, "So what? I don't come here to spend my money," And he just made me laugh, and I made him laugh, but I think I only made him laugh out of pure frustration because I think most of the time he wanted to kill me, but he just couldn't because he couldn't catch me, and he just was my mate. He was a good lad. Scotty was quite funny as well. Scotty, if you ever get Scotty on here, make sure you don't get him on the screen because he's still absolutely good looking. I don't know how he stayed the same. But to be fair to Scotty, he went bald at like 20 odd, so that used to make me giggle as well.
Who was the worst dressed?
What? Are you serious? Peter Ward was absolutely shocking. Oh my word. Matty McNeil. Woo! Matty McNeil, the worst accent ever. Oh, wow. The worst dressed. Oh, Philly Wilson. He looked like, like an extra of Miami Vice in the 80s. Like someone like in a nightclub in the background just dancing or something. And you just looking, you could just imagine that to be Phil. Phil had some, and he used to think he wore decent clobber, by the way, Phil. But he was, no. Who else wore some outrageous grip? Scott used to like a pair of Birkenstock sandals. Sid was all right dressed. Parry was okay. Jonah was all right. Matty. I mean, my clobber was always on. My clobber was always heavy.
I thought that'd be.
You do know that, don't you? Yeah. My grip is always it was heavy. Oh wow, you've hit me with a good one there. Martin used to buy. I think Martin Filson started Giacomo. If I'm being honest with you, he started Giacomo Defo Fils. I'd have to say Wardy, because Wardy tried to keep up with us all the time, and we'd be like, Pete, you can't wear that, mate. And he'd be like, no, Sully, it's all right. It's sound. I can wear it. It's all right. We'd be like, no, Pete, you're not coming out with us dressed like that, mate. Oh, you're young. You're young, Sully. You're young. I'll go with Wardy, yeah.
Next one, it's going to be very hard. If you had to pick a five-a-side team, you don't have to have a goalkeeper, and you can put yourself in if you want. Who would you pick?
Five-a-side team.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't have Kev Parr and Sid. Well, no, I'd have Sid. I would have Kev Parr because Kev Parr should have been born with boots on his head because he was great in the air, but absolutely shocking with his feet. Jonah would have to be in there. Matty McNeil. I'd have Sons and Matty McNeil up top because that's got goals written all over it. I'd have Carl Marginson, Josh Howard. Oh, wow. Oh, no, I can't. I've got to take them out. I'm not playing myself. I can't play myself because I've missed too many chances. Dominic Crooks at the back. He was like the nicest. Dominic Crooks was like one of those fellas you could imagine picking flowers in the day, but you put him on the pitch and he just like break people in half. He was a monster on the pitch. But you could just imagine like working in like a garden centre, like selling people lilies and chrysanthemums and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? But like take him out of that pitch and put him on a pitch and he nails people. So I'd have to say Dominic Crooks. I couldn't have Gary Barres because he just wouldn't let me live it down. You picked me, kid. Thanks, lad. That's how he talks, Gary. Wow. Yeah, I'd have Sons, Matty McNeil up top. I'd go with Steve Jones, definitely. 100% Jonah. I'll go with Matty Willow and Dominic Crooks. There's me 5.
You won't hear the end from them now.
What?
You won't hear the end from them now. That you picked all them.
Yeah, they can all get picked this time. The rest of them, what are they going to say to me? What are you going to do? Hey, come on. They're not going to do nothing to me. I'm Sully, aren't they? So you can give it to me all you want. It's cool.
So that's everything from me. So before we go, is there anything you'd like to say before we end the podcast?
Obviously I dedicated this podcast to Cowboy and to his partner Claire, but there's a lot of people at the club who to this day are still fondly remember Dorothy, Peter Donnelly, Myra, just like, I just want to say thank you to everybody that supported me, that stood by me, that were there for me. During that period of time, people don't understand, how close, how difficult life was. Just being where I was from and what was expected of me, leaving school and with nothing, and football was the only thing where I ever really gained any sort of respect. So when you go to a place where you're unknown, nobody knows you, and within 1 month you feel as though you're part of this family where people in the stands embrace you and bring you in, and people put their arm around you, and people are so happy to see you all the time. It's just I just want to say thank you to everybody that was there or that was involved at the club during my time at the club, because you don't understand, how much he's meant to me and how much he still do mean to me. So I just want to say thank you to every single one of you. I want to say thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak on this podcast. I'm 46 years of age, and I'm still, people still want to hear my story at Stalybridge. It's unbelievable. It means so much. You don't understand how much it means to me. I just want to say thank you to everybody. I hope it's been fun. I hope you've had a laugh. And
Liverpool started. I'm a Liverpool fan.
Yeah.
I'd rather be listening to this at the minute.
I'm glad you'd said that, because I'm an Everton fan. I'm not looking to swallow to Saturday. And plus, I might not actually be here if it wasn't for... Well, another reason as well is, I'll finish you with this one. So we were travelling to a game, me and Ronnie Goldburn, and we're driving down the country lane on the way to Stalybridge, and Sundle never turned up. And if Sundle would have turned up, I'd have been in the back of the car, and Sundle would have sat in the front, because he normally played before me, so you'll have to let him stretch his legs out. And we crashed head on the country lane and ended up in the farmer's field. And my bag got... And I think it was Gerald drove me home after I'd been to the hospital. And Gerald drove me to my house at 2 o'clock in the morning or 1:30 in the morning. And he pulled up outside and he said, "Is this where you live?" And I went, "Yeah." And when you see fear in someone's face, he was in the middle of my estate, and he was just like, wow, he couldn't understand that. That's where I came from. That's where I was from. When my bag got found in the farmer's field 4 days later, and I was back playing within 2 or 3 weeks, because that's what I was supposed to do up at Stalybridge. But even things like that, I don't forget that. Forget that one of the club's directors drove me home at 1:30 in the morning, because I'd been to hospital, because I'd been in an RTA on my way to the game.
Yeah.
Little things like that. They're things that I always hold dear, because that's what it meant to be part of Stalybridge Celtic.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Is that the same one? It just brought one to my mind now. where they say you went to the chippy on a Friday night?
Oh, right. So, I'm not gonna lie, that story isn't entirely true, but it's true enough. I did fall off a bike. So back then, I used to like motorbikes, and it was a Friday, and my friends had bought a motorbike, like a scrambler type bike, and I've said to years ago, it was in the afternoon, I jumped on the bike, so I'm going by ours, not supposed to obviously, but back then, because I thought it was evil Knievel, and there's like a field by mine, and on the field there's like a big gravel, there was like a tennis court, gravel court, and I've come across the field, and as I come on the gravel court, I've lost control of the bike, I fell off the bike, and I've hurt my knee, and I've done my elbow, so I've got back round to ours, and I'm thinking, I've got a game tomorrow, so I've turned up for the game. We're playing, why am I thinking it's Gainsborough away or Guiseley away or somewhere. And on the bus, I'm in absolute agony, by the way. My tracksuit stuck to my arm and it stuck to my knee. And Philly Wilson is like, he's asked me to go down, and he's gone to me, "What's up with you? Was you out last night?" And I went, "I don't go out on a Friday." He went, "Well, what's up with you?" And I said, "I've fell off a bike." He said, "What do you mean you fell off a bike?" And when I showed him, he knew I hadn't fell off a bike. So he said, "Tell me what happened." I told him I fell off a pedal bike, and I told him I got knocked out. I said I went to get, and I said I'd gone to get fish and chips and got knocked off a bike. And that same week, Martin Filson jammed his hand in a car door. So he jammed his hand, broke his hand and his fingers in the car, and I'd come off a motorbike. And this is the truth of that story. So Phil, I'm sorry, Gaffer. I was being stupid. And and when I walked in the changing rooms, one of the lads threw a ball and hit me elbow, and I nearly passed out because it was that. Honest to God, my arm was all swollen. I could barely move my arm. I could barely walk. And Philly knew when I was on the bus that there was something up with me. And I think I even know me as well. Everyone knew that I'd been up to something, but I just never told them what I was up to. I felt too embarrassed, to be fair. But the truth's out now. It's been 20 odd years, so
I'm sure they'll forgive you now.
It's done. Yeah. I still don't forgive myself though, because my arm hurts when it gets cold.
And should we try and sort of pre-season friendly at Bower Forward when the times are normal again?
I would love that. If you could get Lower Breath to come down and play, that would be fantastic. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I'll be in touch closer to the time when we're allowed to play football again.
Honestly, if you could do that, it'd be brilliant to come back. Thank you so much. Is the mural still on the wall? Have you still got that mural of us on the bus, on the wall? That open top bus parade, we were driving down on the top of the bus, and we were looking, thinking, we look a bit stupid here. As soon as we turned into the town centre, we were like, oh my God, how many people's here? There must have been, there was quite a few, you know. We were quite surprised with the turnout that we got.
The whole town was out, I think.
Yeah. Good times.
Yeah.
Good times. But no, thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity. And as I say, look, if there's anything that I can do to help support the club in any way, shape or form, everybody knows, where I am. And thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate that. It's been good to talk to you. Thank you.
Not a problem.
Cheers, mate.